Thank you, everybody. Sorry for all the complicated issues here. So, yeah, technical things aside. Anyway, I just released a brand new video called about Mad Men and employer branding. So go to my YouTube channel. That's down here to take a look at it. It's a 5-minute video. It was a lot of fun to build. So I think you'll really like it. If you like employer brand breakdowns like this, go take a look at my YouTube channel, which is where I archive all this stuff. There we go. I'm going to skip past the preamble since we have such horrible technical issues here. So here we go. JetBlue is a regional flyer on the East Coast. They are not a big company. They've been around for 15, 20 years. When they launched, they had brand new planes. They had all these screens and Wi-Fi in the plane. They kind of pushed all the other airlines forward to say, hey, modernize your flights. Airlines, from an employer brand standpoint, are very interesting to me because they're one of those kinds of businesses, much like consultancies, where the people are the fundamental building block of their entire brand. Right. I'm a big believer that all businesses are their people and all people, without people, there is no business. But in airlines, it's a little different. Yeah, you got to spend a lot of money on planes and access to airports and jet line and, airline travel lanes and stuff like that. You got to have a lot of ground crew. You got to have a lot of structure and infrastructure to manage all that stuff. But the gate at O'Hare is the same wherever you fly. The planes are Airbuses or Boeing, so they're all the same wherever you go. So for the most part, the thing that differentiates one airline from another is their people. So let's talk about their people. So we are going to share the screen and we're going to jump into JetBlue's. There we go. JetBlue's careers. Share. All right, there we go. So this is their career set. Remember, we're not picking on anybody. We're not looking to make fun of anybody. If we see stuff we're not really thrilled with, we'll point it out. We'll talk about it. But I understand all too well why some of the challenges JetBlue might be facing are facing them. It's not about that they're bad at their job. It's just that there's a lot of structural issues here at play. So here's their site. You know what? That blue thing really works. They've really leaned into it. The font, the styling, everything kind of comes together. Even that big picture of people, in front of the banner on the conveyor belt of luggage, I guess is what that is. It's nice. It does feel branded. They feel pretty happy. And in a business where happy gate managers and gate owners and flight attendants and pilots is what's going to drive a business, I think focusing and leaning into this happy thing, smart move. For a long time, remember, flight attendants were all about glamour in the 60s and 70s and 80s, and that sounds like it's fallen away a little bit. We'll look at some content down the road that will kind of highlight that or not highlight that. But I think being generally happy, these seem like, and maybe I'm wrong, but these seem like sincere smiles. I mean, are they obviously been told to smile and there's a camera and they know there's a camera? Yes, but it feels human. It feels real. It feels fairly sincere. These are not actors. This is not stock art in front of hired models to do this. So there you go. I will say there's no headline. Aside from saying JetBlue and knowing I clicked on the link that says careers, there's nothing here that welcomes me. There's nothing here that sets the frame. Why am I seeing what I'm seeing? And it's a missed opportunity. So you could either embed the text inside the image or kind of make a headline above and just talk about whatever that brand is. Right now, the only thing I have to go on is that people are smiling. And that's nice, but a lot of companies think everybody smiles all the time, and that's not necessarily true. Okay, standard job search, blah, 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 featured careers. This is a super functional site, perhaps a little overly so. You've got sections for airport operations and all the various functions, and we'll jump into one in a second. And then you've got latest updates. Look, here's the problem. This could be any site. This could be any airline site, with the exception of the color. Every site, career site starts with a nice big hero image, job search. Here's some featured career sections, some latest updates. Not exactly reinventing the wheel, which is unusual because JetBlue really did push the boundaries of the entire industry when it came out. So I was really hoping to see some level of consideration and thought beyond the obvious that I would expect from a company like that. And I'm not. So I'm a little disappointed that I'm not seeing it. Vets in Blue recruiting event, and that's really interesting because the statistics on how many of your airline pilots came from the military is phenomenal. So there's a clear kind of cross-pollination between military and airlines that's always just going to be there. So it's interesting to see that they're leaning into that. I like that. First officer application window is open. You know what? I'd love I hope that it doesn't go anywhere. I kind of like that photo. It feels not too staged. Like I feel like someone could take that picture with their phone camera. They probably didn't, but it doesn't feel so glossy. I like that. It's got a bit of a human touch. I also wonder how in the hell do you get in these seats? But that's a separate conversation. Join our talent network. An interesting point here. The font issues are very constrained, very tightly knit, very focused up. Like there's no white space here. This feels very jammed up. Again, photos are decent. This is probably from a photo set. You know, they've asked people to come and shake hands and be friendly to each other, and a professional photographer took the shot, but it doesn't feel overly glossy. So I like the sense of there is a bit of humanity in this, and they're doing a good job at that. Could there be more content, especially on the homepage? Yeah. Give me something that frames up everything else I'm seeing. So we dive in. Who are we? Great question. Now, what's interesting here, and I looked it up. Oh yeah, see, February 2000, so 23 years ago. This is a fairly older design, a single column. I'm sure it makes perfect use of, being mobile friendly, but this is a text block that's like 18 words wide. It makes it really hard to read. They could have just put a lot more margin on the side or padding on the side of that paragraph block and kind of squeezed it together. There's nothing wrong with white space if it's necessary, if it's useful, if it's helpful to make it more readable. This is lines of text that is very hard to read. For those of you who know your usability numbers, more than 10, 12 words in a row. There's something in my face. 10, 12 words in a row, make it hard to read. You're literally, your eye gets to the end of one line and it goes, okay, now I need to find the next line. And there's like a split second of, okay, where does my eye go? That leads to confusion, leads to uncertainty. It makes people feel less comfortable. Tighter, narrower columns, always better. But they're balanced with these gorgeous photos, which, let's be fair, airlines have they have abundant image possibilities, right? Travel is one of those places where the photos they take themselves. It's really hard to take a bad photo. So this is gorgeous. I love the widescreenness of it. But again, next to this wide text, it seems out of place. It seems very old school. How's that? The blue is fine. They're doing it. This is a nice kind of segue, this photo from the previous header. So now they got more people, but they're clearly in front of that same background. Obviously, it's a photo shoot, but it feels connected. Again, not too glossy. Nice video. I'm going to point out, we'll see another video in a second, but this was really well shot. It's very heavy with motion. Let's do this. Let's just click it. It's moving around the cabin. It's got a lot of humanness. You'll notice, we'll look at some other videos. The people who work at JetBlue, it's not like they're pretending they're coming from incredibly sexy places. These are real homes, right? You see, a crack in a paint here and there. You see a slightly imperfectly messy kitchen now and then. And that's their real lives. And I love little nitty gritty details like that. This is more of that not glossy. It's shot really well. It's edited really well. I don't have the audio, so I can't tell if there's like music behind it or anything, but I presume there is. But even when it's glossy, actually, let's go back. Let's look at that. Watch this high five. Boom. Look, it's slow-mo. This is slow-mo. They're bits of slow-mo. So they're doing these little things to give it just a little pizzazz, but it never feels over the top. It doesn't feel too fake. It feels like a well-polished reality. How about that? So I really like the video work they're doing here. We'll get back to people and culture. More people. Look at that. I presume they have some culture. Still this issue with the wide paragraphs, especially here when they're not broken up with some bold text for some headers. So minor adjustments, minor tweaks, but the photos are okay. Here's the thing. I went and looked, and this site has been up for at least 2.5 years, unchanged. And I get that having birthed a career site, the last thing anybody wants to do is go back and re-edit it because it's such an arduous process. No one ever wants to do it. But this is a site that's clearly starting to get to the end of their lifespan, that this layout and the headers and the text, the way it's all blocked out, it has a dated feel to it. Now, I'm not saying you need to make your career site live like fashion and always the hemlines go up and down and the lapel widths go up, narrow and tall or whatever. But you got to give it some polish. You got to go back and change some stuff. You got to change some text. You got to change an image or two. You just got to give it a little love. A career site that hasn't been edited in 3 months, okay, that's going to happen. But a career site that hasn't been edited in 6 months or 12 months, no, you can't let that happen. You have to keep reseeding this information. You got to keep making sure this feels as fresh as possible, not just because someone quit and you got to take that photo out, but because this is how you make the site feel more alive. Very often, and I looked at the code and I see who built this site, and I'm not here to make anybody mad, but this is a template that someone applied and used and said good enough. And that's really where the challenge for employer branders is because very often, and I think we've talked about this, there's so many jobs an employer brander has to be good at. They need to understand the language of video, and they have to be good writers, and maybe they know some Photoshop, and maybe they know how to use the ATS backwards and forwards, and maybe they understand outreach psychology, and maybe they understand stakeholder management and vendor management and leadership management and managing up and all this other stuff. There's so much to know. Nobody can know it all. One of the things that falls out very often is web design or web editing. And it's very easy to hire a vendor and say, build my website, and they build the website and they launch it and you go, taken care of. You wouldn't do that for your social, would you? You wouldn't say, I wrote those job postings 3 years ago. They're still fine. Of course not. The career site's the same way. The career site needs perpetual care and feeding. That you need to spend a couple of minutes every month just looking at it and going, what can I tweak? What can I polish? What am I liking? What am I not liking? What opportunities are there? Some changes aren't really a big deal. It's a textual change. It's putting headers where it says JetBlue University here. Maybe it's swapping in a photo. Maybe it's putting in a montage where there was just a single photo or vice versa. Just keep the site feeling fresh. Very important. Okay. Into diversity. Always important. They do a decent job setting it up. Here at JetBlue, diversity goes beyond ethnicity, race, and geography. Great. Integrity is our values. They're not saying anything that's going to set the world on fire, but I think the fact that they're doing it and they understand a great deal of their audience, both customers and potential prospects, are going to come from a wide variety of backgrounds. They have to do this, and I think they do it well enough. Could it be better? Of course, everything could be better. Promoting cultural competency. I think that's interesting that they show up with a Cuban flag. I know that's because I think they have a Miami route, and that might be why. But it just kind of struck me. It's like, that's not a flag I see very often. Foster diverse pipeline. Crew member resource groups. I love that. They call them crew member, not employee resource groups. Embrace who you are. Embrace what you're all about. Nice logos, nice kind of design work. Honoring heroes, reaching blue. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so let's get into functional groups. I'm a big fan of showing careers in groups. So let's go to in-flight attendants. I like this video a lot. Again, whoever's doing this, I don't know who did it. I don't know if it's anybody I know or don't know, but clean, like this sense of like, we're not mucking about. It's still got it's got enough emotion to make me feel like it matters, like it's working, like it's doing something, and it's not just really dry like paint, but not overly wrought, not overly worked. The places where they make these tiny little editorial creative decisions, like the slow-mo bit, subtle. Like if you don't think about it, you don't even notice it, which I love. It's not really drawing attention to itself. Okay, so let's go look at the video. Again, here she is at her house. There's a crack in a door, some wallpaper that looks like it might be old. Packing a bag. Isn't that every flight attendant's life? Packing a bag one way or another. Understanding what the weather is where you are, understanding what the weather is where you're going to be, making a cup of tea. This is real world. This is real life stuff. Okay, that's clearly a well-cleaned oven. No one's oven looks that clean for too long, but very real. I love this. And as she gets ready, she's getting ready to go to work. I like the line about she didn't ever see herself in this kind of airline. Really good content, really good storytelling, visually intriguing without being, obviously splashy, but telling a solid story. This is real life. This is her real job. And I wish we saw more of these day in the life stories that incorporated things like the commute, things like because the job doesn't show up. The job doesn't start the second you walk in the door. You're thinking about the job. You're thinking about what you're going to do. How do you get to the job? Whether your commute was, and remember, this is a big deal about COVID stories, your commute was just down through your garden to your other room, and that was your commute. You still mentally got ready. You still had to think about it. So I thought the video work is really well done. And this is true across the board. I think they're really And I'm wondering if they just started to recently lean more into the video content as the bulk of their visuals and information, because it's working. It's really working. Where the rest of the site seems a little dated, the videos really kind of take off. Okay, so let's go look at a quick LinkedIn thing. Copy link address, paste. Okay, so you should be seeing LinkedIn. Great. All right, so I got some notifications, people telling me they can't hear me on the microphone. That's fine. So here's JetBlue site. No, immediately. And I want to just give a shout out to whoever made this decision, because, nailed it. The company's called JetBlue. The logo is obviously blue. They picked a color on the exact opposite of the color wheel to make it pop. They found an orange, and not only did they make an orange border at the bottom of that header image, they picked a photo very orange and very not what you expect. I mean, JetBlue doesn't make bikes or helmets, so why are there people biking and helmeting? Because this is very much a site not about customers, very much about who wants to work here. And they're talking about travel, and they're talking about people who work there and what they do with their lives. I love that. It's a zig when I would expect them to zag, and they do it really, really well. Strong play. So let's go into posts. Let's take a look at recent, just because I do that. Again, military connection, obviously. This dark blue really plays for me. And I think it's got a lot of interesting kind of color pop choices. You got the yellow, you got the orange. But at the same time, it's one of those colors where you have a lot of different shades of that blue, lighter and lighter, that still kind of work. It still feels very soothing. There's a reason why blue is the color of business, right? Nicely done. But again, Veterans and Military Families Month, this is very much employee driven. Here we go, come out with pride, employee driven. The content is not bad, could be better, right? Say more about why you care about LGBT community. Why does it matter to the business? Make it less about, there's the thing we have to do, and more about, this is why we actually care about this stuff. Because I get the sense that they do, but they're not getting specific enough with it for me to go, I understand it. Foundation's 10-year anniversary, yada, yada, stuff. People doing, okay, now this is nicely done. This person, Asima Gibbs, do we have a title? Vice President of Corporate Social Responsibility, showing up and being reposted here by JetBlue and writing something down. It's recently sat down with Engaged for Good to talk about her journey. Good for not just sharing, good for adding to it, but you can always add more content about what am I going to hear? What's a tidbit I might get if I go and click the link? Because we all know, if you're lucky, 3 to 5% of people actually click that link. 3 to 5% of people actually go in or read or listen. So give me more of information for people who don't click that link, right? That's really what it's about. Good planes, good. Again, I like how they repaint them, and they paint them on a regular basis. It's got a good soundtrack. It's clicky, it's fast, it's catchy. Is it really employer branding? You could have tied it to it. Yes, the all blue body and splashes of color. Talk about how it matters to the brand. Talk about how maybe even bring someone out to say, this is how seeing those new planes made me feel. That would elevate a little bit. More about the foundation, people playing golf for the golf course, more veterans. Again, here's hiring pilots. And of course, they're doing that. We're now hiring, which of course I always say, don't do that. But it's buried. That makes sense to me. This is as much now hiring as I would allow you to go with, because it makes sense. You've got the banner, you've got the logo, you've got the join us at this place to go learn about us. It's not about apply here, quick, we're desperate, but more about, hey, do you want to learn about us? Here's an event that you can learn about us. We're looking to take your career from soaring new heights. Come visit at this booth. I think that's a much better than just a standard, we're hiring and calling it a day. So they're generally doing good work. Here's a consumer message. We don't have to get into that. Again, more with the color. Again, just an opportunity. How do you make it more human? Make it more real? Did want to make it to this post because I saw this previously and I was like, that was nice. Not just because I like plantains, which I do, but because this is clearly someone's phone. This is a standard iPhone, Amazon, or Samsung, whatever, picture of a flight attendant, very proud of Hispanic snacks, I guess is what they're a Hispanic owned company, Hispanic crew member. It makes perfect sense. I like that it feels real. For a company that is worth billions, for a company that's flying millions and millions of dollars of hardware every single minute, something so real. It's a nice touch. Is it going to make me want to apply? Not necessarily, but it adds real flavor to the story it's trying to tell. So to kind of recap, because I think this is a good spot to recap, generally doing nice things, generally being smart. The thing I'm missing is the overarching brand. Why and how is JetBlue different from other airlines? That could be strengthened. That could be more clear, both on the career site. Again, smiling people is nice, but a brand, it is not. I can guarantee you if I go to Southwest Air, I go to Delta, I'm going to see a lot of smiling faces there too. So how does a candidate make that choice of why should I be engaged in this one, especially since it's a regional carrier? This is an airline with a lot of good brand cachet, but it's not Delta where you could fly around the world, where you could be, headquartered out of Honolulu or Dubai or wherever the heck. This is a regional player. So it's got a different offering. It's just not well framed yet. The website needs a little polish. It needs a little love. It's still kind of getting old in that template model, but there are places here where I feel like they really embrace the humanness of their brand, the people who work here. Not all companies, even the ones who are very human focused, know how to do that well. And I think leaning into video, leaning into photos like this, not going too polished, not going too glossy, is doing them good. But the next step is figuring out how do we define our brand so that it's crystal clear just by reading through that content pretty quickly. So with that, thanks for another employer brand breakdown. Thanks for watching. Again, archives down here in the YouTube thingy. Go find me, go find them, go watch them, I guess, and subscribe. If you have a brand you'd like me to look at and review live, and hopefully where the mic works, let me know. Just ping me on LinkedIn, ping me on email, whatever. I would love to come up with another company. This one came from the Employer Brand Forum on Facebook. So thanks to, I can't remember who mentioned it, but thanks for mentioning, hey, we should do airlines. And we did. So with that, thanks so much. This will be archived in YouTube probably later in the day. So I will see you then. Thanks so much for listening. Talk to you later.